The Bering Sea was a merciless expanse of ice and mist, where the water swallowed ships whole, and the wind howled like a beast hunting in the dark. The Argo, a weathered salvage vessel, rocked against the waves as Captain Reynolds stared through the binoculars. "There it is," he murmured. The ship had appeared on their radar a day prior, a massive steel ghost, adrift in open waters where no vessel should be. Its name, barely legible through the salt-worn paint, sent a chill through the crew. "This thing's been missing for over 60 years, said Matthews, the ship's engineer. "No way she's still floating." And yet, there she was, her towering silhouette emerging from the fog like something dragged from the depths of time. The Cordelia loomed lifeless and still. No signs of distress, no radio signal. Just an eerie silence beneath the churning gray sky. They boarded at dusk. The deck groaned beneath their boots, and the air smelled of rust and decay. Ice crusted the railings, as if the ship had been trapped in a frozen hell before breaking free. "Check the bridge first," Reynolds ordered. "See if we can find the log." Inside, the corridors stretched in eerie silence. The walls, once pristine, were now streaked with something dark. Water damage, perhaps. But the way it ran in streaks down the length of the hallways, pooling at their feet, made it feel almost intentional. Matthews reached the wheelhouse first. The captain's chair was empty, the old navigation charts scattered across the floor. A thick layer of frost coated the controls. Then, beneath the dust and ice, Parker, the radio officer, found the ship's log. He flipped to the last entry. "They are coming out of the walls. We locked ourselves in, but it won't matter. If anyone finds this, stay away." The ink was smudged, the last word trailing into nothingness. "Who's they?" muttered Parker. Then, from somewhere deep within the ship, a door slammed. The team turned sharply. "Must be the wind," Matthews said, though his voice lacked conviction. They descended into the lower decks, moving deeper into the heart of the Cordelia. The sleeping quarters were left untouched, beds still made as if expecting their passengers to return. The dining hall was set for a meal, long uneaten, plates of rotted food frozen in time. And yet, chairs were overturned, silverware scattered, signs of struggle. Then came the first body. Slumped in the corner of the ballroom, half-frozen and impossibly well-preserved, was a man in a 1960s naval officer's uniform. His eyes, sunken and lifeless, were frozen open, his mouth twisted in terror. His hands gripped the floor, as if he had been clawing at something unseen before he died. "Jesus Christ," Matthews whispered. "He looks like he just dropped dead." Then the lights flickered. The Cordelia had no power. "We're leaving," Reynolds said, his voice steady. "Now." But then the distant sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway behind them. Parker spun around. "Did you hear that?" They turned off their flashlights. The ship was dead silent. Then, a whisper. Not from the halls, not from behind them, from the walls. Matthews took a step back. "That's not the wind." The whispering grew louder, overlapping voices, murmuring in a language none of them understood. Shadows stretched unnaturally long, shifting in the dim light. A deep, guttural groan rumbled from below deck. Then the first scream rang out. Reynolds turned just in time to see Parker being dragged backward, his fingers clawing at the steel floor, his flashlight skittering away. A blur of movement, then nothing. Parker was gone. "Go! Now!" Reynolds roared. They sprinted toward the exit, the walls shaking, doors slamming as if the ship itself was alive, desperate to trap them inside. The whispering turned to wailing. From the portholes, faces, pale, sunken, watching. Hands pressed against the glass. They reached the deck, gasping, throwing themselves onto the Argo's ladder. As soon as their boots hit their own ship's floor, Reynolds barked the order. "Cut the line!" The salvage cables released and the Cordelia began to drift back into the mist. But before it vanished, Reynolds saw something that made his blood turn to ice. On the deck of the Cordelia, Parker stood, his face expressionless, eyes completely black. And then he whispered, "You shouldn't have come." Then the Cordelia was gone.